and I didn't know what being a helpmeet was. Right. I would account for most of those troubles being me not being able to help him effectively. And you've heard our story, Tony, so you're familiar with some of that. But it was 2003, so we were married 8 years when I learned what my role really was supposed to look like within the marriage relationship, and that to me was my turning point. Because up until that point, I'd wanted this Prince Charming, not realizing that Prince Charming doesn't exist. But if I wanted any of those attributes, I had to then help my husband emotionally. And I remember God telling me, "You're a great housekeeper, you're a great cook, but the thing that distinguishes a wife from a mother, a maid, or a mistress is spiritual." And I had to go into that spiritual space that I'd never known or had gone to before. And I actually teach this to wives now because I feel like I see them, I see me in them, but I didn't know that. And so for 8 years, I did damage that I didn't have to do to him, because I wanted my comfort and I wanted my security, and I put my security in the heart of a man who came with trauma.
What's going on, good people? Welcome to Between Friends. I'm your host, Anthony, and my lovely co-host, Nikki.
What's
Hey,
up?
Nikki.
Hey,
What's going on?
nothing much. What's going on
All
with you?
right. All is well. All is well. All is well. Well, for good people, if you like what you have been hearing or what you have been watching, please subscribe to our channel on our YouTube platform. Follow us on various social medias such as TikTok, Instagram, and also if you want to listen to us on Spotify. So as it's customary here, Nikki and I normally do a little wellness check. So we won't change that anyway. We won't change it. So Nikki, how are things going? Physically, mentally, spiritually, how are things?
Well, let's see. Mentally, I'm good. Thank God. I woke up in my right mind, so I have no complaints there. I'm happy that it's Friday. I've been looking forward to it all week. To have a break, it's been a busy week, but other than that, I have no complaints. The family's good, husband is good, kids are well, so I am having a great day. And as usual, it's always good to chop it up with you, sir. So I'm going to throw that back in your court. How are you doing?
I am well. I am well. I had a 1 day travel down to South Florida yesterday. I went to see a fraternity brother of mine that's not doing well, but it was great to see him, physically see him, get eyes on him. He's dealing with a little ailment right now that it's a little bit tough,
Mm,
just to see this vibrant individual that was full of life. Certain things we take for granted, such as waking up in the morning and
right.
being able to use all of our limbs,
Hmm.
and just see him in a cane. It was a little different. But besides that, as you stated, woke up today, so I got to give God thanks, and so mentally, I'm probably at like a 6.5 after my visit, but
That's
being able to get on this platform and talk to you and also talk to our guests, I'm sure will lift my spirits. So if seem a little bit down or not balanced, now you know why. But yeah, so week's going well. Week's going well.
All right. Well, no worries there. You know, we stand in the gap for each other, so it's all good. We got
There
you.
you go. Well, appreciate it. Appreciate it. So today we are honored to have with us on the show two very special individuals in my life. You know, I've known them for approximately 10 years. Uh, and today we have Derek and Sonia, better known to many of their followers as the Marriage Menders. Derek, Sonia, thank you for your time and welcome to Between Friends podcast. How are you guys doing?
Thank you,
Thanks for having
Tony.
us.
Thanks for having us. We're doing great. Good to see you. Good seeing you, meeting you, Nikki. Thank you for inviting us onto your podcast. You know, anytime we can chop it up together is a great time. And
For
so,
sure.
Yeah, we're doing. Sonia, we get this question asked, "How are you doing?" And Sonia he used to have a answer. We are doing fine.
Uh-huh.
I'm not doing fine right now.
So you
We learn to work in that space because when I say that, our three girls are gone, living life, and now our son is here.
Mhm.
So for me, because I'm a girl dad,
Mhm.
but I have a son. So I'm in transition with trying to deal with my own emotions, my own space, my own time. And it's the Sabbath coming in. We usually have worship with the girls and they're singing songs. So now it's a little bit different atmosphere here. So for me, I could be better emotionally, but I'm good because God is good. So yeah.
For sure, for sure. And I understand that girl dad concept now. Now that I have
yeah.
a little one, a little girl
Yeah.
myself,
Yeah.
and I know how emotionally tied she is to me, and I in turn, this morning she saw me because I guess I left the Wednesday night, and she came up to me and was like, "Daddy, I miss you so much." And gave me a hug,
Aw.
and I was like, "Oh man," you know.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
heartstring.
Got your heart, right?
Yeah. So I get it. I get it. You know.
Yeah.
But
Well,
thank you
I'm good
guys.
because the girls are doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Ah,
So, when they're not here, they're not in my pocket.
ah,
True. True.
I get
So I'm
that.
like, yup,
Facts.
bye.
Facts.
Why you laughing, Nikki? You got two little girls yourself.
Because I have two little girls, so I understand what she means.
Yes, they a lot of estrogen in the house, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
Goodness.
oh,
I miss them though, but they're good at staying in touch, and they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. So I'm
for
not mad at
sure,
them.
for
Yeah.
sure. Well,
Yeah,
that's what's up, man. That's what's up.
yeah.
But again, thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to speak to you guys
Absolutely.
today.
Our pleasure.
You know.
Our pleasure.
And I'm just going to dive in, because a lot of folks tell me that my bedside manner is not the best, but I'm just going to dive in.
Okay.
So
Hit it.
why don't you just guys tell our audience a little bit about the two of you?
Ooh. Okay.
Exactly what you guys do. How you guys help others out. So just tell the folks a little bit about yourselves.
You go ahead.
What?
Yeah.
What?
You go.
All right, so I'm sure Derek will feed off of me eventually. That's how it rolls. So, Derek and I will be married 29 years next month.
Ooh.
Awesome.
Congrats.
And
Yes.
thank you. Next year is our 30th, and we've been knowing each other for 31 years. So, early in our marriage, we were asked to start a ministry at our church that we attended back in the DC area. And we were married 2 years and the least qualified to start that marriage ministry. And we thought that it was a very funny sense of humor that the pastor and the team would ask us because literally we were not doing well.
Mm-hmm.
We said yes only because we had no choice. They were not letting us say no.
Mm-hmm.
And they gave us 5 couples to find in the church by name. And we went and found them to help us. And that became the birth of a marriage ministry that we didn't even expect to see. It's still actually going strong. This year will be 28 years that they've been doing this ministry that we started and it's called duets. So duets is a big part of why we have become who we have become. Those couples poured into us when we were young and dumb.
Mm-hmm.
And that ministry, we've had like 4 different leaders after we passed the baton. And it makes us just grateful to see that what God could do with 2 broken people years later.
So ironically, it's interesting how our paths met. Because Sonia was a licensed therapist before we met, and God knew that I had some issues, so He made it divinely present that I didn't meet a nurse, a practitioner, a librarian. He said, "You need to meet a therapist."
Mm-hmm.
And that was our dating process. Our first date was,
Tell me about your father.
"Tell me about your father." First date, we went to Union Station in D.C. Nice meal. I'm feeling her. She's feeling me. So tell me about your father. I'm like, what? Wait.
She made you talk.
And
She went in.
She went in. But the interesting thing about it is that
You know a lot about a man by his experience with his father. That's why I asked that.
So so that's how we connected in a lot of different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we got married and Sonia started her practice, I'm a kid from Philly, from the projects, grew up in a very traumatic space, and she was doing therapy with a couple, and she asked me one day, "I want you to sit in on this therapy session." Now, mind you, I have no background, a high school education, and so my background is law enforcement, military, and I said, "Sure." And in that moment when we sat next to each other after that session, we realized that God appointed us together to do therapy. I didn't realize the gift that God has given me, and so I went back to school, undergrad, grad school, social work. We all became licensed. I became licensed, so we became licensed clinical therapists. That's our profession, but our assignment was to work together to help people be healthy emotionally and mentally. So God just glued us together based on our upbringing, our background, our experience, and so here we are now. And this is the work that we have been assigned to do it, and we love every second of it. So we've been sitting next to each other doing this for 28 years.
Wow.
Well, we moved from the DC area in 2011. It was to launch the marriage Menders. So we were doing counseling, but we didn't have a formal name. It was just Derek and Sonia helping people. And so God said it's time to be established professionally. And that's what prompted our move from the DC area to Georgia. We needed to be able to charge, I guess, what you call affordable rates and still pay mortgage and have kids. And we couldn't do that in the DC area without it being expensive to charge, clients. So Georgia became our home for those different reasons. And we've been doing it here since then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, going back to that date, Derek, because I'm a guy, and I you probably know the question. I'm a guy. I don't know if you guys been watching social media lately about the boxer, but
no, I've been off social media.
with the Olympics and whatnot. But
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I won't touch on that. But no, seriously, Derek. Most guys, we don't like to talk, so we like to keep things like surface level.
This is true.
How was that when she asked you that question? Your relationship.
Yeah, I was shocked at first. I was numb because I didn't know how to respond. Because I dated women before. I was married before. I dated a lot of women before. A whole lot of women.
Here we go.
Pretty boy.
That's what they call me. But here's the thing.
Pretty Ricky, what they call you.
Here's the thing. So when she asked me that question, I didn't answer right away, of course. But something hit me where I never had not one woman in my life in regards to an intimate relationship ask me that question. Not one. So when she asked me that question, it woke me up. Like there's some sustenance to her, and there's some sustenance to that question, because deep down inside, I really wanted somebody to ask me that question. No one asked me that question. So it was it was shocking. I was surprised, but I was relieved. Now I had to figure out, is it safe for me to give her the answer? That was the other part to it. So so those are the feelings that I had. So was it, that's the big part, was it safe? And she made it safe, obviously.
For sure. So, and the reason why I think we have some surprise look on myself and Nikki, we just had an episode on safe space.
Yeah.
You know, or your spouse, your
Mm-hmm.
significant other creating a safe space
Yeah.
environment for you to share and for
Mm-hmm.
you to follow that up with that. You know, it
Yeah.
was, divine, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know,
It's always
God's working
orchestrated.
for sure,
Yeah.
for sure.
We call
Now,
it surround sound
Yes.
from
Yeah.
God.
mm, mm. Now,
Mm-hmm.
Sonia, why did you ask that question and not the opposite? You know.
Man. I've had a good dad, right? He
Mm-hmm.
passed away tomorrow, actually, be 6 years.
Mm,
We're in that week. And um I've always seen the impact a father has on men. And so for me, to know him would be to know his relationship with his father, because that's a big part of who he is. You know, boys look at their dads and girls look at their moms, and vice versa. But that gender similarity does have a powerful impact on a child. And so I was just really curious to know who he was through
mm-hmm.
that eye, through that lens.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I was sharing with Nikki last week how my relationship with my father have not always been the best.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not until recently I've really started sharing with my wife
Mm-hmm.
about my relationship with my father. Since now, you know, you guys would be happy to hear this. I'm doing some self therapy myself, so I've started to do some therapy and
Good job,
and
Tony.
learn and
Good
learn a
job.
little
Good
bit more about
job.
myself and
Yeah.
why, you know, I react, why I behave certain ways towards
Mm-hmm.
my wife. And I was telling her, you know, sometimes I find it a little bit difficult to be emotionally connected with my wife.
Mm-hmm.
And I was explaining to her, I don't think I've ever seen my father hug my mom or kiss my mom or just being like emotional with my
Mm-hmm.
mother. They sleep in the same bed together. You know, I don't know what
Mm-hmm.
they do behind closed doors, but like out in public, I've just never seen them, you know, being emotional with each other. And sometimes I have a hard time being emotional with my wife, you
Mm-hmm.
know, out in public. So I was
Mm-hmm.
trying to figure out why, you know, there was such a barrier, you know,
Hmm.
between my wife and I and me. Because I know I love my wife. You know,
Mm-hmm.
why is it so hard to express that love?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's physical touch, you know, just a emotional hug or whatever it may be, you know, but sometimes I find it very hard. So it was kind of, you know, I
Mm-hmm.
just want to understand why you asked that particular
Mm-hmm.
question to Derek on a first date.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm surprised Derek didn't walk out the room. No, let me stop messing
Well, that date was a gratitude date. He helped me single-handedly move my parents
with
to
you.
the location they were moving to, and my sister at the time, she's passed now, but she and I it was only me, her, and a friend that was really wimpy, and so it was like we need some muscle. And so Derek doesn't work out at the gym a lot, and we'd met at work. So I said, let me call and see if he's available. And he single handedly moved my parents. Let me tell you, we carried little things. Derek was literally carrying stuff on his back, and so I took him to dinner. I took him to dinner as a result of him doing that,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how we got to know each other. Now, that was a
Yeah.
thank you dinner, and it
She was
sparked.
paying for it too, so
I was
you know.
paying for it.
What? She paid?
Yeah, I paid. I was taking him to dinner. He worked like for 5 hours helping my parents move. So yeah, I paid, and we went to America's Cafe at Union Station
Nice.
in DC.
Not
Yep.
Cheesecake Factory. Okay.
No, it was real
That
good.
was our second date, though. I wanted him to have back then. I wanted him to try the Cheesecake Factory. He never tried it.
Nice.
So that was the second date, and he paid for that one.
Nice. See? See,
Cheesecake Factory is a good spot. My husband, our
I
first
love the
date was at
Cheesecake
a
Factory.
Cheesecake Factory, so
Yes, yeah.
I was
Don't be sleeping
perfectly
on the
happy with
Cheesecake
that.
Factory.
no,
Right.
I mean,
Yes.
people are making a lot of fuss about the Cheesecake Factory or where you take someone on a
Takes you
date,
on a
and that
date.
was the
Yeah, I
only
saw that.
reason why, I made kind of
Ah,
light to that, and that,
okay.
hey, it's okay to go to the Cheesecake
Right.
Factory.
Right, right, right. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a question. So as we are talking about communication, kind of segue into that marriage part. How, oh, let me see, how do I phrase this? Because we talk about the gender to each other, right? And then the
Mm-hmm.
communication, like Tony was talking about within a marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Um, how heavy of the communication, I guess, that you have with your parents or what you see with your parents, as he's described, he couldn't understand why he wasn't communicating with his wife. Like the dynamic between mom and dad, and then what
Mm-hmm.
you do in your own marriage. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what's the, I want your opinion on that connection. Why does
Oh,
it play such a big part?
it's so big because think about the world is big, and then when we're born, the world isn't big.
Hmm.
The world really just exists as children, as you know. You guys have children; you've seen them when they were
Right.
small. You are God to them. Like
Hmm.
before we know God ourselves, our
Right.
parents are our world.
Right.
So we're taking in everything they're doing, everything they're saying. Children, we develop our verbal skills last, which means that all our other senses are heightened. So we're paying attention and we're hearing more and we're seeing more. We're thinking more before we can actually say more.
Hmm.
We've established a whole understanding of relationship interaction that shapes us,
Hmm.
Hmm.
right? Which is why it's so important. That's why we're also family counselors, because we try to help families, especially married couples, understand, like, to your children, you are it.
Hmm.
So if you're not healthy, they won't be.
Right.
So that's a great question, Nikki. We really get most of who we are, our core. We call it connecting our relationship experiences, CORE, to
Hmm.
Hmm.
our parents. Connecting our core has to do with our parents.
How do you pivot away from that? Because what they had worked for them or didn't work for them, and we inadvertently emulate our parents. Because I know that there have been things that, like, I didn't like or I saw, and not anything that's
Yeah.
bad, but I find
Yeah.
myself when I talk to my daughter saying it, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I sound like my mother, or I sound like my father, or
Yeah.
there are traits from my mother and father I can see, not just in myself but also in my husband, which is
Mm-hmm.
also interesting, because I'm just kind of like, I love my parents, but I didn't set out to marry them.
Yeah, for
I set
sure.
out to marry someone I was attracted to and I got along with. So that's always been interesting. So when you are in a marriage dynamic, how do you pivot away from that to create what's going to work and bond the two of you together? Because you're both bringing in your past experiences, good or bad, to become one. And sometimes that can cause you to butt heads where maybe you should knew how to navigate that better.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Remember, you can tell the song I used to sing about
No,
me and
you
your
can. I
daddy.
was gonna say something.
Oh, go ahead, go ahead. I'll remember.
No, so it's so interesting. That's a great question because we do grab these traits, and how do we lean from it?
Hmm.
I think is looking at the relationship and looking at the positive things that I need to bring into my marriage.
Hmm.
There's some positive things that I saw. There was some positive,
Right,
so I want to bring those things in. But then there's things that were unhealthy,
right.
and I have to be able to be in my quiet space to say, okay, yeah, I learned a lot that I saw that was healthy,
Hmm.
but then I learned a lot that was unhealthy, and then looking at that and say, okay, this is what it's an unconscious thinking, but it has to be
Right.
conscious
Right.
Mm.
and intentional.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
that's one that I would
And
say
I
would
think it's
be
ever evolving because some of
yeah,
those subconsciousness, some
Hmm.
of those subconscious thoughts follow us later,
right,
and then we're like, where'd I get that from? Well, mom, or
Hmm.
dad. And so it is a intentional process, Nikki,
yeah,
that you have to actually say, this is me now. Why am I this me?
Right.
Where did it come from? Where did I adapt these traits from? Celebrate the ones that are really great, and then burn the others.
Yeah.
Mm.
And just. But I was laughing when you asked that question because in my eyes, my dad was perfect as a child, right? When I met Derek, Derek created a daddy song because I compared him to my dad. I was like, my dad didn't do it like that. And dad would never have done that. And he was like, daddy, he's the best. He's the best of all the rest. Everyone is second best because daddy, he's the best. And so that was the song he would sing.
Copyright that.
And then one day, I saw my dad's flaws.
Yeah.
Through the eyes of my mom. When I was old enough for her to share different things about their marriage.
Yeah.
And I was like, Daddy did what? And so, but what I do love about my experience is that my parents didn't hide a lot of that stuff from us. Like the majority of what we saw was authentically their love.
Right.
But I knew that I wasn't going to be the kind of wife my mom was. Or the kind of mom my mom was. Now, I do have some of her traits, but my mom had a different temperament. She was born in a different era. She's a different birth order. All those dynamics make me different, right? So you've got to be able to say, here's what has been great from what we've learned from them, and that served them in that time. Right. But we're in a different era.
Right.
And so we had to be intentional about what kind of mother we were and father, and what kind of wife and what kind of husband we were going to be. So you can do it. You can keep the good, like Derek said, and decide, I'm not carrying that over.
Yeah. I had that same kind of epiphany that you did, because I'm very much a girl dad. I'm a little girl, all the things. I'm the youngest. I'm the baby, all the things. So yeah, when I got older and my mom and I were talking as adults, it was just kind of like, what now? Wait, why are you doing that?
Right. Isn't that something?
Talking to my mother, like, why are you doing that? Stop doing that. Like, look, and it was a weird kind of place to be, and looking at my parents through different eyes. That was an adjustment period. I mean, even after I got married, it was another adjustment period, because I was like you, like my dad was perfect. He could do no wrong. Like there was a standard for which I thought when I got married to my husband, he was going to be just like my dad, because I was like, oh man, don't do this. Why are you doing this? Like my dad, why can't you do everything? What's wrong with you? And I didn't understand that. That took a lot of years of trying to change that. So
for sure.
My dad himself had to tell me, he was like, you need to let your expectations meet your reality. So he was like, you're going to have to shift. And I was like, oh, okay.
Hard pill to swallow, right?
Yes.
Yep. Now knowing that, because somebody watching this show today may be like, oh man, Derek and Sonia look like the ideal couple, marriage goals, as they would say, So like Nikki said, both of us. I mean, Nikki, you said it. Sonia said it. A few of us have said it on the show thus far. We place these individuals or couples on these pedestals, like they look like the ideal couples, right? So my question to you is, has it always been this, what we're looking at today? Has it always been that? Or how did you guys get to this?
Well, I don't know what this is, because he gets on my nerves still.
And the feeling is mutual. I can go back to the other day.
Yeah, because this is 29. This is 29 years. This is working as partners. This is this what we're looking at. So was it always this, or how did you get to this?
That's good. That's a good question.
Yeah. So I had a lot of trauma, and I wasn't healed from it. And so I acted it out the first 3 years of our marriage. Divorce was a common conversation in our marriage. I had an anger issue. I was picking up tables and putting holes in walls. I had a pornography addiction from the age of 13 to the time I met my wife. She found back then it was the VCR tapes,
Ah,
VHS tapes
Mhm.
in my
mhm.
closet because I was a cop, so I confiscated them. And it
Mm-hmm.
had triple X on it. So I said, "Oh, what's those X's on that thing right there?" I said,
I
"Don't
had
worry
never
about it."
watched porn a day in my life when I
So
met you.
Wow.
I had addictions, I had issues, I
Mhm.
had stuff, drinking,
Yeah,
and so our marriage, the first 3 years, she was getting all of that,
right.
Mhm.
all of the, and then Sonia, she's the black girl's rock woman. She's a strong sister from Brooklyn, New York, with that Bayesian twist to it. It's like a
Mm.
good drink, and it's powerful. So
You
she
gonna give
know,
a
so,
name a drink for me?
uh,
You gonna name a drink after?
yeah, Cavassier with a twist of lime.
Hey. That's a
So
strong drink.
that's a strong drink.
That was his drink back in the day.
So her response to me, she's not backing down. She's coming in. She's
Mhm.
not going to back down. And so, and our temperaments clashed.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And so it was a really bad place at that time because I had to heal. I had to heal from a lot of things. Sonia had to find her space in regards to how did she cope with me.
Mhm.
So the first 3 years of marriage, and of course, throughout the years, we did evolve. We had to
Mm-hmm.
grow. I found that I had dyslexia.
Right.
Um, when how old? Let's see, I
See, I
was
was 13.
so yeah, she was 13, so that was about 14 years ago. That played a big part of our communication issue, and I didn't know. So all those factors. So over the years, we really started to have some self reflection on ourselves. Uh, I wasn't leaving the house spiritually, so that's the component right there.
Mhm.
And I didn't know what being a helpmeet was.
Right.
I would account for most of those troubles being me not being able to help him effectively. And you've heard our story, Tony, so you're familiar with some of that. But it was 2003, so we were married 8 years when I learned what my role really was supposed to
Mm.
look like within the marriage relationship, and that to me was my turning point.
Mhm.
Because up until that point, I'd wanted this Prince Charming,
Hmm.
not realizing that Prince Charming doesn't exist.
Right.
But if I wanted any of those attributes, I had to then help my husband emotionally. And I remember God telling me, "You're a great housekeeper, you're a great cook, but the thing that distinguishes a wife from a mother, a maid, or a mistress is spiritual."
Mhm.
And I had to go into that spiritual space that I'd never known or had gone to before. And I actually teach this to wives now because I feel like I see them, I see me in them, but I didn't know that. And so
Mm-hmm.
for 8 years, I did damage that I didn't have to do to him, because I wanted my comfort and I wanted my security, and I put my security in the heart of a man who came with trauma.
Mhm.
And so the security would be violated and then I would violate him.
Mm.
And I didn't know that. I just know we went into survival. Both of us went into survival mode before we came. And when I came out of survival mode, I was then able to see him and know how to help him.
For sure.
Yeah, we didn't value each other at that time.
Yeah.
The value level was low level value.
Yeah.
You
Mhm.
meet, you date, you get married, you go through this, and now we don't have a perfect relationship by no means. Like Sonia says, we do pop off on each other, but we do it in a place where it's not coming from a past trauma.
Mhm.
It's a husband and wife thing,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
learn how to resolve it. But we have a high value on each other now. There's some things that we're not going to ever do that we've done before,
For sure.
and so our value level to each other is very high right now.
For sure.
And we have this, and you've heard us say this before, Tony. We had to learn that there are things in marriage that that you understand, and that you then have to accept. And because if you don't accept it, you can't value it, and what you value, you protect.
Yep.
So we are continually seeking understanding so that we can get to that place of
There you
acceptance
go.
and then being able to value because that's to us what differentiates marriage from any other relationship is that whole protection thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not protecting everybody. I'm going to protect my kids,
Mm-hmm.
but I have to protect him even before I protect my kids because we're one.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? So however we show up impacts the kids
Yep.
in our oneness.
Yep.
And a lot of people don't understand how to value because they haven't gone through that step of understanding and accepting.
Yeah.
You know, I can know that he had trauma, but do I understand how that shows up?
Mm.
And can I accept how that shows up so that I can protect him from me giving him those triggers?
Mm-hmm.
So once I learned that, I was just like, oh, I got your heart now, baby. I got it. You know, every now and then I might trigger him, you know, because I ain't fully, completely holy yet, in Jesus' name. But for the most part, I can protect him even from himself emotionally.
For sure, for sure. Now, do you guys think that being placed in charge of that ministry at such a young time in your marriage or a rocky time in your marriage kind of helped the marriage? Or
It saved us.
That saved us. We would not be here
It saved us.
if that did not happen. Well, maybe we would have been, but it would have probably been a harder road.
Okay.
But it definitely saved us. Yeah. It showed up. It showed up at a time where we were just broken, and we kept breaking. You know.
And if we did, we would have met those seasoned couples.
Right.
We were blessed to be in a room with 8 seasoned couples. Seasoned, not perfect. They were seasoned.
They're double time our number of years.
And so we're so thankful and blessed that God positioned us. Here, I'm going to put you in a room with these folk.
Yeah.
Married 20, 30 years for some. And then they fed us. They fed us.
So we could feed others.
So we had to be in that space.
And we still celebrate duets. We're going in October to speak. Because they do something every fourth Sabbath. We started that in 1997.
That's a long time ago.
Yep, and they still doing it to this day. So we're excited about that. It saved our marriage. That's a good question.
Yeah, that's actually awesome. Because I will say, I know the marriage counseling that my husband and I went through, I thought it was very surface. Even at the time, because again, we talked about off camera, I'm a PK. So there's certain things that, I hear, I know, my dad has done or whatever. And I felt like it should have gone deeper. And I know people ask me all the time, well, how come you didn't have your dad do it? Because he's my dad. And I didn't want to have that. I wanted it to be different.
Of course.
There's a part of it where sometimes I wish maybe I had, because I didn't feel like they went deep enough. And there were things when we got married that I was just kind of like, nobody told us about this. And I know that there are things that can come up that's, unique to individuals, but there's still nothing new under the sun.
Right.
And, my husband and I recently were talking maybe earlier this year. We had a conversation and I told him, I said, I didn't know outside of the cooking, the cleaning or whatever, I know how to be a wife by what I saw my mom do. But she never sat down and told me how to be a wife beyond that. I don't fault her for it. I'm not
right.
I thought, that's what a wife is. So when we got married and there are things that you're asking or needing or whatever, and I'm looking at you like, but I'm not being a good wife. I mean, the house is clean, I'm cooking, I'm doing all of this and whatever. Like, what more am I supposed to be doing? And then I would get defensive about it. But on this side, I wish that was a conversation. And she probably didn't have that conversation with me because the era that they came up with, nobody had a conversation with them in marriage.
Correct.
It was kind of like, you love her, right? You love her? Oh, you guys are ready to get married.
Married, correct.
And being in the church, I wish they would just do more. I feel like there's this thing that says like, oh, we don't want to ask these questions or whatever. And I'm like, we should, because more of us would have a clearer understanding. And I think that that's important.
For sure.
I wish that, Derek, you talked about the trauma. Like, I wish that people would be more open to talk about trauma in that dating aspect.
Yeah.
and not like
Yeah.
after the fact. But I think that we're so scared to say, if I show you
Mm-hmm.
all of my ugly, then you
Mm-hmm.
will
Right.
continue to date me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Of course.
Absolutely.
And then there's the euphoria concept too. You know, we're in a euphoric stage. The hormones are high when we're meeting someone that we think we love or that we're falling in love with. And so you don't even want to be reminded
Yeah.
of the
Right.
trauma, you
Yeah.
know? And the endorphins are real. That's a
Yeah.
physical reaction
Yeah.
to that relationship. That so when couples come to us and they want to talk about getting married, you know, we have to go there. We have to go into those uncomfortable places,
Mm-hmm.
and we have to ask those hard questions, because there's a high percentage of African Americans who are trauma survivors and don't even know that it was trauma.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then what happens is it's that blind side, right? So when you get married, the thing we have this phrase, marriage is one big trigger party.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Right? So Derek's triggering me, and I didn't come from trauma, but you know why he's triggering me? Because he's not doing what my dad did,
Right.
which was provide security. Why are you breaching my security? My dad never breached my security, right? So I didn't even have to come from trauma to be triggered,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then I'm saying these things to Derek, and it's triggering him.
Yeah.
One big trigger party. So when we do these sessions with these couples, we like really go in.
Mm-hmm.
We hear their stories for the first 90 minutes, and we put little checks where we think there may be potential for trauma. And most of the time there is.
Yeah.
And most of the times we treat it,
Right.
but there's no preparation for the two becoming one and those trigger parties happening. So what we have to then do is say, how are you going to cope when you're triggered?
Yeah.
Because it's coming.
It's coming. Yep. You know. Now, would you advise? Because I know, especially and most people that attend church or call themselves Christians, we before we get married, we typically do counseling with the minister, but not with someone outside like yourselves, right?
Right.
Would you advise someone that's going to get married to do it with outside counseling versus, a minister?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
No offense to the ministers.
No offense to the minister,
but they're not trained in that
Right.
area.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they
Yeah.
and to be honest, a lot of the ministers are struggling with some issues that they aren't able to say. Derek and I would love to create a space for pastors to have their own retreats and their own, counseling, because they're men just like you. And their wives are women just like you and me, Nikki. And so they're and you're a PK, so you understand. You probably seen your dad as the man and not the pastor. But sometimes that becomes their identity.
Yeah.
And no one understands that they're struggling.
Yes. Yeah.
And that they need support.
For
So
sure.
yes, they're probably the last people to give counseling, if I'm gonna be honest.
Well, sometimes in our experience, when couples come to us for pre-marriage counseling or couples counseling, and they said they went to pastoral counseling, it's a safe space for them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's safe because you don't go deep, and
Yeah.
and the training that's required to go into those areas requires training, clinical training. But the thing is, we've had also powerful experience where pastors have called us, and he says, "I've given pre-marriage counseling. This is as far as I go because I see some things that I can't even deal with." We have two pastors who
They will
they're
call
yours.
us. Yeah.
And so that that's a blessing because they see something that they're not equipped to go into.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, Tony, like Sonia said, we really emphasize the importance of coming to getting pre-marriage counseling by clinicians who are trained to go into those spaces, like you said, Nikki.
For sure.
Yeah.
I just remember during the pandemic, the wife and I, we because we were seeing each other more frequently, we definitely thought, hey, while we're not in a space where we're constantly bickering with each other, but it would serve us some good if we did some counseling. And I think from that, and also attending, some of the marriage retreats that we attend on a regular basis have really, really helped our marriage. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we're still a work in progress. But the reason I asked that question earlier was I remember just getting counseling from a minister, and everything was like right here, you know,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and you never really went into some of the stuff that I have learned over the years about myself, about my wife,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it does such a disservice to someone getting married, a couple that's getting
Right.
married, that they don't enter into some form of counseling. Because I think some of
Mm-hmm.
there's so many little small stuff that you can, you know, sidestep,
Mm-hmm.
and if you deal with it at the beginning,
Yeah.
but we don't know, you know,
Right. You don't
and
know that you don't
yeah, you
know.
don't know that you don't know, and
Yeah.
oftentimes we see, you know, again, and I only can speak for myself. My marriage was pretty much based on what I saw at home, you know,
Right.
or what I saw at church, you know, but you only saw, you know, the pretty. You
Mm-hmm.
didn't see the ugly, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
and now as you got older, you're like, oh, so and so's divorced. Oh, so and so's divorced, and I'm like, oh man, you
Right.
know, they look like the
Yeah.
perfect couple.
Right.
So yeah, so I
Mm.
definitely believe that it would benefit, you know, couples that's about to get married to seek outside counseling, you know,
Mm-hmm.
on top of the if they decide to
For
go with the
sure.
pastor, you know, on top of the pastor, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm,
Absolutely. 10-second plug. We're doing a pre-marriage counseling online curriculum.
boom.
Still got sticky notes on it.
Yeah, put
It's
it
about
up.
to pop off in 2 months.
Hmm.
It's a curriculum to help couples be prepared for marriage, and it's covering everything in it that you can possibly imagine.
And it's us. It's all us.
And it's online. It's not AI generated. It's just
Right. That's
all
what
our
I meant
stuff.
when
There
I
you
said it's
go.
us.
There
Because
you
folks
go.
doing AI stuff, so just a
Yeah.
plug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
And question for you. I know we're talking about the premarital, so we're talking about when you're engaged. What are your thoughts on the couple getting counseling before they're engaged?
Oh,
Yeah,
that's what we promote that.
absolutely.
Okay.
And to be honest, if they come to us engaged with a wedding date, we don't typically see them
Mm,
Mm.
why not?
because they've already paid for a venue. They're not going to change their mind no matter what they hear us saying.
Yeah.
And then what they will say is, "But we did go to counseling with Derek and Sonia. Don't do
Don't
that
do
to
Mm,
that.
us."
mm,
Mm.
So
Yeah,
and that has happened. So we're just like, if you're not willing to change the date
mhm.
so that you can discover some things about your readiness, then we won't be able to do this with you.
Okay.
What? But how do you get someone to come to counseling when you're just dating this person? You don't know if you're going to. Now, is it after the proposal or is it, you know, before the proposal? You
It's
know.
just if they have a wedding date, they could have been proposed
Okay.
to, but if
Okay.
they have a wedding date and they're not willing to change it or put it on hold until after they discover counseling, then what's the point?
Yeah.
They're going to do whatever they're going to do anyway,
For sure.
you know? So,
For me, Tony, to answer your question, I feel like had I thought about it before I got married, I think I would have I would have suggested that we go to pre-marital counseling.
mhm.
Because, and not that I wouldn't have married my husband, but it would have given
Right.
me a better understanding
right,
of what I was going into, what I was walking into. Like I would have liked to known so that there are some hits that we both
Yeah.
over
right,
here that we didn't
Right.
take. So just like Sonia was saying, like you have triggers that you don't even know you have triggers for when you didn't come
Mhm.
from a home that had trauma. And
Mhm.
Mm.
there's been stuff that triggered me that I was just like, oh, I didn't even know that
Mhm.
that was something that was going to aggravate me, and it aggravates me deeply. So
Mhm.
right,
I would say if someone is dating and you know that that's the direction you're going, like for myself and Arlen, my husband, when we started dating, his question was, "Are we dating?" He's like, "No." What he said was, "I'm not looking for another girlfriend.
Mm.
At this point in my life, I'm dating to be married. I'm not dating to be dating. So if you're dating me dating, then we aren't going to go any further."
right,
So
Mm.
in that situation, I went ahead fully intended to marry him. So
Mhm.
yes, along in that dating process, I've been like, let's go
Mhm.
talk to somebody.
Hmm. That's good. That's good. Now, Derek, Sonia, so you guys are, you know, obviously marriage counselors and whatnot, but it just seemed like since COVID, like the divorce rate has like really increase. What do we attribute that to? You know, and I know you're just giving your opinion. You know, I don't know if you have statistics out there, but it just seemed like, you know, I was just having a conversation with a friend of mine, and it was just like, man, it just seemed like everybody's getting a divorce around us.
Yeah.
So it's like,
mind blowing.
what are we attributing that to?
Well, I'll start with before COVID, and when we told certain friends that we were moving to Georgia to do this together, they said, "How could y'all do? You're going to be together all the time?" Some people, right? And I thought about it, and I said, "Well, let me think about that. The most in the area of life where we spend the most time is what reaps the most benefits, right? Yet we don't see that in the relationship perspective." So then that became my response, which was, well, if I can't work with my husband full time, what does that say about our marriage? Right? And so that was kind of how we used to diffuse it. Fast forward now to COVID, we have seen a lot of that. Even people up close and personal to us are divorcing, like in real time. And what I realize is COVID slowed and quieted a lot of things. It showed us who we are, you know, and a lot of the times when that happens, you're going to either flee or flight or freeze or fight or fawn, which is get along to get along. And I think that that's what COVID did.
Yeah.
So, you know, couples didn't know how to handle that space, which is actually what we were intended to do, to become one, was to stay in that space as long as we could.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not saying that we don't have our individuality and we don't take our breaks, but if being together is a problem and you're married, then it's going to show up. And that's what I think accounts for some of these divorces.
Yeah, they got used to not being together.
Right. I think we're in a space where identity is important now to people. I think social media we don't even do social media stuff. Every time we peek our head in there, like, oh my God. And we peek our head back out. Oh, we're not posting anything. We don't do that. You know, if you notice, we don't even little stuff.
Birthdays and anniversaries.
And that's it. That's all we do. And for our business, we got to push things out there. But I think also people are now having an awakening to themselves, their identity. You know, to your point, we don't have any statistics, but if we did that, we would look at marriages from 0 to 10, marriages that are over 10 years. You know, I would like to look at those numbers, and what we've seen, because we're in that age bracket, we are seeing more couples married over 15 years and now divorcing.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some who are less than 15 years, but I would like to do a study to see those numbers, and based on just our own experience, we see more that are married over 15 years, and because we know people personally, their identity. I finally found myself. I'm waking up.
Yep.
I should have done these, and so now it's like it's time to go. So, but that's a question that probably would have to do some research on. I would love to do that.
Someone jokingly told me that every time they see someone do a 20th year renewal, just wait for about 5 months.
Oh man!
So his advice to me was like, don't do a 20-year vow renewal. So I've had a few friends lately, as you stated, Derek, in that age range where they've been married between 15 to 20 years, are getting divorces. And it hurts me. And I don't know if you were going there, Derek, but for some odd reason, these individuals were really close to me. And I feel some kind of way like I did not do enough to help that marriage. And can you guys speak on that a little bit about having like maybe like a circle? You know, we all, a couple of my friends, we were always talking about having that circle, that network where you can come to and I could remember during COVID how every Saturday afternoon we had like 8 couples. We used to get on Zoom and,
Mm-hmm.
we'll talk things out. And one of them so happened to have gotten a divorce this year. And
Mm.
from what I remember, all their conversation were always surface level. They
Yeah.
never let
Yeah.
anybody in.
Yeah.
So even with that couple, it's just like, did I not look for any warning signs? Could I have stepped in? What could I have done? So there's
Mm.
like a little bit of guilt
Yeah.
that I walk with, saying that could I
Yeah.
have saved that marriage? And
Mm-hmm.
just want to hear a little bit more on that. Is it okay for me to think that way?
No, I mean, if you cared, you would think that way,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think that it's like when a loved one passes, we say, could I have done anything else? Could I have been there if I only had? And I think that it's no different from when a death of a marriage takes
Right.
place. It's human for us to want to see how could we have made it stop. But the truth of it is, when couples are near the end, that's when they don't share,
Mm.
for different reasons. And we've talked with friends that have shared this with us. They're embarrassed. They're devastated. They're angry. They're ashamed. And there's this, and that's why Derek mentioned social media. There's this euphoria and this, I guess, false sense of happiness that people put on Facebook. And I'm gonna tell you, this is real, because we know people that put stuff on Facebook and we're their therapists. Okay, and it's real. Like, we're like, why is that on there, right? Because they're looking for another identity. To Derek's point, sometimes the pain causes them to dissociate and create a fantasy. And so I don't know that the couple that broke up would have been able to be strong enough to tell you, because they're going through a plethora of emotions that are complicated. And really, whatever the scenario, at the end of the day, a lot of the times those couples that end up divorcing feel like they didn't have what another couple had to do it, not realizing that we're all making it by the grace of God. Go I, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you're on the other side, social media will make you think everybody's winning.
Yeah.
And so they don't want to say, I'm losing, because you look like you and Stephanie are winning.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to tell you, they don't see that. They see they must have something we don't have, and they go into that despaired space where they don't say help. We have had some that have said help, and very few, and we go in, and they've been okay. But the ones that don't, they've already decided before that point of no return that they weren't going to ask for it, because you have something they don't have.
Do you think that it's also a result of just our culture in large, where we don't talk about things? We have this inherent thing where we sweep it under the rug, we put it in the closet, we close the door. And so instead of us being the village-minded people that we are, we isolate and separate. And, just kind of goes back to what Tony and I talked about in our last show about the safe spaces. And I think that a lot of times, like Tony, if you had and I don't know what you guys discussed, but let's say in that Zoom call, nobody really is putting out there that they're having troubles.
Yeah.
Then they're not going to say that they're having trouble, because everybody's good. We're here. We're live. We can. So everybody must be. So I'm not going to put out in the group that, our marriage is falling apart. We'll just pretend like we're happy like everybody else. And I find that within our race as a total, no matter your culture, we have that bad habit of tucking away, and we don't talk about things until after the fact, and it's too late.
Yeah,
nailed it.
The husbands, I'll speak for the man's perspective. The husbands that I talk to, when they get to that point, I ask them the question, what's your circle? Who are your boys? Do you say anything to them? 90%, I'm not telling that nigga.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. In the barbershop, because I go to the barbershop, I've been going to this bar for 11 years, we talk about everything. And so when I go, they know I'm a therapist, so I sit there. I don't say anything. I sit there. They don't. I'm not saying I'm not therapy. This is my therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I asked the owner of this barbershop in this particular conversation. I said, so and so, how's your marriage doing? Oh, D, why we gotta go there, man? Why are you messing up this groove here? I said, because we don't talk about this stuff and you're suffering.
Yeah.
And that atmosphere changed, it shifted. So I sat in that barbershop for 2 hours. All these men started talking about, let me tell you about my situation. Man, let me tell you. And they started talking because it was a safe space.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't given permission to talk in a safe space.
Yeah.
Because of being judged or, so some of that is gender
And culture.
and culturally. So yeah.
I mean, and to your point, Nikki, we just had a session with a couple. They went to a couples retreat with their friends, and the wife told the husband, the only way I'm going to go is if you tell them we're not talking about marriage and relationships. And he had to, that was the caveat for them to go. So, I mean, that perpetuated not being able to talk about, and, it's about 8 couples. So to your point, that culture has honestly paralyzed the ability to sometimes say, ouch, it hurts.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, now I'm the other way around. I see things and I call it. My mom said I was always like that, and I ain't changing for nobody now at the age that I'm at. So when I'm in a space with someone, I'm like, y'all ain't okay. Come here. I just saw something, So I won't subscribe to that culture at all.
For sure.
But again, people run from me because they know that.
Here they come.
I'm not subscribing to that because if I can see something, I'm gonna say something. If it's especially someone that I care about,
Right. Right.
Yeah.
But it's hard.
Yeah, and I know that we talk about too with the genders. As women, we tend to open up to each other more. How do we shift that? How do you shift that in a conversation that gives safe space, especially for men? And now I guess I'll ask that question to you, Derek, to make, not make, but allow men to feel more comfortable to share their heart, so that if there are issues or problems, like that can be talked to, with your spouse, or even, like you said, with your guy friends. You just kind of go in, or
no, we can't go in. Because the results of us going in has been a response that's not good. But I think I think he has to look at his relationships that he does have. And some men don't have relationships like that. So I encourage them to try to identify that. It's hard to do because we don't connect like that.
Right.
We connect through sports, fraternities, and those kind of things, which is a good thing. So if a man doesn't have that other man to have that space, then he has to try to ask God to reveal that man to him. But for those men who have that core, I think the part is that to be honest with them, whoever that is. If Tony and I were boys, and I'm not as close with the other 7, Tony, man, I want to share something with you, man. But we have to have that prerequisite kind of.
For sure.
I want to share something. I need you. Is it say pinky promise? Cut the fingers, make blood swears on it. We got to go through this whole process. And if Tony says, "Man, look, it's all good, man. I got you."
Yeah.
And as soon as he says that, then that's when we are safe to be vulnerable with each other.
Yeah. I know he probably won't mind me sharing this. As I told you guys earlier, I went to visit one of my frat brothers, my line brother, and so it was 4 of us that pledged together. So all 4 of us, the other 3, I came from Chicago, 1 came from Tampa, 1 came from Atlanta. So we met down in Miami where he's living. And as we were talking to him yesterday, and I kind of already knew what he was going to say, because he's kind of been a little bit closed and not picking up phone calls and returning texts and so forth with his situation. And he basically came out and said pride. Pride would not allow him to reach out to us and says, I am hurting. I need help. and it was a matter of us just being there physically with him and
Right.
showing him that we actually care about him, that no matter what he's going through or what he needs, that he has the three of us that he can lean on. And I think that's what it is with men. You have to know that you have these individuals that you can actually share with, you can lean on, but until we open ourselves and let that other person know, hey man, it's okay.
Right.
It's okay to lay it here. It's not going anywhere else. But we're afraid that it's going to go somewhere else, and our
Yeah.
pride just won't allow us to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or in addition, your point is so valid, that pride thing. In addition to, think about it when we were 12 years old, and we shared something that was vulnerable. She broke up with me,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever it is. Most of the OGs' response are going to be "suck it up."
Mm-hmm.
The OGs are going to, well, it doesn't have to be OGs, a parent, whomever. Suck it up.
Mm-hmm.
They got to talk about it. So we conditioned to, well, we keeping it in because of the association with what comes with it. Because it's a dangerous place. Your boys could have said, man, come on, man, just hold it in. Come on, do what you got to do, man. There's other people out there.
Yeah.
And that's the hesitancy.
There you go.
But we want what you guys just did with him.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we really desire.
Right.
Especially even from our wives too.
Right.
Yep.
That's good.
Now, we earlier we touched on what the work that you guys are doing as marriage menders. Can you speak a little bit on exactly, that, entity between, Derek and Sonia? What exactly is marriage menders?
Go.
Well,
You're better at articulating alcohol in circles.
that name of the marriage menders was just spiritually ordained by God, because Derek and I had finished our book, and we had to get business cards, and we were trying to just find a name that would, when you hear it, would know that it meant wellness for marriages, and not just marriages, but individuals, because individuals equate marriage, right? Two people. And so that's that, I just remember saying, if people felt like we did, they would want to feel mended, because we were mended. Those 5 couples that came to our rescue in 1997 helped mend us. And so the mending kept coming back, and that's where that came from. So we were just like, marriages need mending, the marriage menders. And so we're basically a ministry first, but we're also a business. We're a business that does marriage and family counseling full time. Our daughter has joined our practice, and she sees the youth. So we turned into the Marriage Menders Plus when she came on. And she's great at it. She's living in Kansas City now, running a youth program, but she still sees the youth for us virtually. And we want people to be well, and we want people to experience the joy that marriage is supposed to bring, and that relationships is supposed to bring. But because of sin and trauma and experiences that should never have happened, we've heard some horrific experiences. There have been couples that have come on, and when they're finished, we're like, how are they still making it? We have heard some stories, and we look at each other and say that they got the gift of resilience, because we do believe that there's a few in the population that have that horrific things, and they have shown up like you and me. And that inspires us, because we're like, if they could do it, if they could come and ask for help in the trauma that they've experienced, we've got to get up every day and keep going to help others. And we take their heart, reverently and seriously. So we feel honored when people say, can you help? Because a lot of people aren't out there doing that anymore, And if they are, they're unreachable and they're hard to get. And we just want to be a couple that's available, for people like us.
You said that very well. I wouldn't have given that.
No.
No, I'm
They have a
serious.
different
I've
brand.
never heard you say it meant wellness.
Hmm.
After all these interviews that we've had, I've never heard you say it meant
Interesting.
wellness.
There
That
you
was
go.
deep. I'm going to reward you for
Hey.
just that.
Ah,
For just that. That was hot.
Next question. Please don't feed into
That was
this.
hotter than hot.
Nice.
That thing turned me on.
nice.
The things that turn him on.
It
I
did.
tell
Are we
you.
finished? Are we
All
finished
right,
this thing here?
let's wrap it up.
I'm about to put the camera. I'm about to put the camera off.
Amen. It's over.
Please do not feed into Derek Lorenzo.
Let's wrap
Oh
it
my
up. Let's
Lord.
wrap it
Lord
up.
have mercy.
Hey,
I'm
all
sorry,
right.
y'all.
Well,
I'm
guess
sorry.
what? I'm a good listener. So I'm
No, go ahead and continue.
gonna wrap it up with this one.
We love it. Please don't
What-
feed into him.
What's the best advice that you could potentially give to a couple trying to get into marriage, and a couple that's currently, in that fight right now?
Mm. Mm. Hurts can be mended. Just be brave enough to go through the healing process. Because hurts have identified people, and it has made them think that there's no return because their hearts are hurting. But hurts mend, and we mend it,
Yeah.
like I said.
Yeah.
So, it's not the end because you're hurt.
Yeah.
And if we can say that we've seen couples come back from some horrific experiences and allow the mending process to happen, that only represent about 1% of the population, then the other 99 can do it too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, for those who are looking to get married in that space, ask all of the exhaustive questions that you can ask. Don't be afraid to ask those questions. And when you ask those questions, don't ignore the red flags. We had 3 couples who were in pre-marriage or pre-relationship, and they didn't ask these questions, these Socratic questions. Get some answers, and I said, "Why did you ask that question?" Well, because I thought that they would. Oh, well then. And it's good because they're here in that space. They're not engaged. So that's good.
Yeah.
So ask the questions. Don't ignore the red flags. And I just co-sign on what Sonia said about the hurts as far as couples who are in it. Healing from those hurts. Not be afraid to get therapy for it. To go into those places what caused the hurt, the root of it. Have you been healed from other things in your past that's coming into the marriage itself?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Good question, Tony.
Nikki? Oh, this is the first time I actually got a good question, because Nikki was the one getting all the good questions. I just wanted to say that.
Oh, you said
Yeah.
That's not true. Sonia said good question a couple times.
You both asked some great questions.
Right, let's
Good.
such fragility right now. No, I actually don't have any closing questions. You actually asked one of the questions I wanted to. So
Okay. Well, I will do this. So as I stated earlier when we first got on this call, I said how Derek and Sonia has been very instrumental and important in my life. So I just want to give you guys some flowers right now. Been going to the marriage retreat with them, and I must say, if anyone ever has an opportunity to be with them, it would be life altering. I've learned so much from you, Derek, how open you are with your wife. And I'm like, he shared that? I'm never sharing that. I'm taking that to the grave. So I appreciate your honesty, man. And as I stated earlier about, goals, and yes, how we're not supposed to look at others and be like, I'm striving to be like exactly like this person. I will say, man, listening to you over the last couple of years, I'm in awe of you, man. And I appreciate everything that you have taught me, that you guys have taught my wife, and you. I will let you guys know this. I have implemented some of the stuff that I have learned. How to fight fair,
Good.
you know, how to
Good.
take a time out and come back
Yeah.
to the not just the argument, but the discussion, you know,
Mm-hmm.
taking that time out, you know, and, you know, how to be financially savvy with your money. Because you've taught us how, about money situation,
Mm-hmm.
money management. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so I just want to say thanks, man. And
Oh.
I think this was perfect to have you guys on here.
Mm.
And it's just so funny how some of the stuff that you guys talked about today, Nikki and I have touched.
Wow.
Even the whole flight fawn,
Yes.
those triggers,
Freeze.
those trauma
Mm-hmm.
triggers and all that. And I was just
Yeah.
like, wow, I guess I did learn something at those marriage retreats. So thank you.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Continue doing what you guys are doing. You guys are
Thank you,
wonderful
Tony.
at it. And congrats on 29 years. And I look forward to
Yes.
30. So, yes, so I will be at your vow renewal for your 30th. Because 30 is not the cutoff no more. Because it was 20. Because
Okay.
my friend told me it was
Okay.
20. So once you pass
Okay.
20, you good. You
Yes.
good. So
Okay.
yeah.
Well, we're gonna invite you.
Yeah.
We're gonna celebrate it on a cruise.
There
We're
you
gonna
go.
send out
There you go. There
information,
you go.
so you
There you
guys
go.
are more than welcome to
Yeah,
celebrate with us.
There
We're
you
looking
go.
forward to it. Thank you for the kind words,
we
Tony.
appreciate it.
No,
Thank you.
and
Thank you for
I
having
I
us.
mean every last one of those words. So thank you.
Thank you
We
so
We
much, Nikki.
appreciate it.
Thank you. It was so great meeting
it
you
was
and
Yeah.
nice meeting
dialoguing.
you as
Hmm.
well. Yes.
Keep up the good work.
All right.
We need these type of
Yeah, it was
forums,
good.
so keep going and share the passion of relationships and any other human interest topics. We need to hear more of that,
For
and
sure.
so we're proud of you guys for
For
starting
sure.
this. Keep doing
All
it.
right.
Thank you.
So thank you so
Yeah.
much, and we are between friends.